This is WZ Tales. Today's story follows a man who quietly buys his girlfriend's company and watches how she treats him before she knows he is the new owner. While you listen, imagine what you would do if you saw someone's true character from a position of power. My girlfriend said, "I chose to keep the peace." I replied, "I'm done protecting your silence." Then I walked into her office as the new owner, let the audit expose her department, put her on a 90-day plan instead of firing her, and watched as a photo from that night changed everything. My name is Landon. I have been dating Zoe for about 3 months. We met through mutual friends, hit it off pretty fast. She works in marketing at a mid-sized software company called Braden & Co. Solutions. Good job, stable, and she always said she liked her coworkers. My work is a little more complicated. I am what people in the industry call a turnaround specialist. I buy struggling companies, restructure them, and try to make them healthy again. There are NDAs, private deals, and a lot of confidential information, so I do not talk about it much. When Zoe asked what I do, I kept it vague. I told her I am self-employed and do business consulting and development. She seemed to fill in the blanks herself. I could tell she pictured some freelance software guy working project to project. I did not correct her. We were new, just having fun, and my job is not great dinner conversation anyway. Sometimes hiding your money is the only way to see who actually sees you. Last Friday, she invited me to her company's recognition night. Big event at a hotel ballroom, open bar, awards ceremony. She wanted to introduce me properly to her colleagues. I said yes, put on a suit, and showed up around 7. At first, everything felt normal. I met a few of her coworkers, shook hands, made small talk, standard corporate event energy. Then we sat at her table. That is where I met Brent. Brent is the sales lead. Mid-40s, loud laugh, strong handshake that drags on just a bit too long. The type of guy who thinks he owns every room he walks into. He asked what I do. "Business development consulting," I said. "Oh yeah, which firm?" he asked. "I am independent." His face changed. He leaned back with a smirk. "Independent, right? So freelancing," he said. "You could say that," I replied. He turned to Zoe. "Freelancing, that what we are calling unemployed now." People at the table laughed. Zoe smiled. She did not correct him. "I am employed," I said, still keeping it light. "I just work for myself." Brent was not done. "Self-employed doing what exactly?" "Building websites, running Etsy shops." More laughter. I took a drink and kept my mouth shut. Zoe touched my arm and said, "Landon, you do not have to get all defensive. Brent is just joking." Then she turned to the table and said, "He is very humble about his work, sometimes too humble." That actually stung more than Brent's comments. She was telling me to go along with it. This is the first moment where she chooses comfort in the group over respect for her partner. The night got worse from there. Every time someone new at the table asked what I did, the others shared a look like they were all in on the same joke. "Must be nice having that freedom," one said. "No real schedule." Another said, "Zoe likes a man she can, manage." Someone else chimed in, "My cousin does freelance web design too. He is really struggling right now with the economy." Zoe laughed with them. When I did not join in, she told me I should loosen up. The worst part came during dessert. Brent stood up with his drink and raised his voice so the whole table could hear. "Hey, Landon, real talk," he said. "Tomorrow our company is getting a new CEO after this acquisition deal closes. You should send in your resume, man. Maybe they will have an entry-level spot for you. Could be your big break into corporate life." The table broke into laughter. Even Zoe giggled behind her wine glass. I smiled and said, "I will think about it." What I did not say was that I already knew exactly who was taking over his company. Around 10, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my corporate attorney. "Tomorrow, 9 a.m., acquisition announcement. You will be addressing the leadership team first. Conference room setup confirmed. Board wants you there by 8:30. I excused myself and went to the bathroom. I sat in a stall for a minute, just breathing. For 3 months I had been working on this deal. Due diligence, negotiations, restructuring plans. The purchase of Braden & Co. closed at midnight that night. Come Monday morning, I would walk into that building as the new owner. And Zoe had no idea. Life has a way of putting people in rooms where their masks fall off before you reveal yours. I went back to the table and stayed another hour. I let them make their jokes. Brent kept going. He asked if I needed help updating my LinkedIn, if I knew how to use Excel, if I had ever worked in a real office. Zoe squeezed my hand under the table but still did not ask him to stop. I drove her home around midnight. She was a little tipsy and in a good mood. "Thanks for being such a good sport tonight," she said. "Brent can be a lot, but he means well. It is just office banter, you know." I just nodded, kissed her good night, and left. When I got home, there was an email waiting. The acquisition had finalized at 11:47 p.m. Braden & Co. Solutions was now owned by Pierce Holdings, my company. Monday morning, I woke up early and went to their office. I arrived at 8:25, met the board in a small conference room. We did a quick alignment on messaging, then headed to the larger room. At 9 sharp, the interim CEO, a man named James who had known this was coming, started the meeting. "As you all know, Braden & Co. has been acquired," he said. "I want to introduce you to the new ownership. Please welcome Landon Pierce, founder and CEO of Pierce Holdings." I walked into the room. Brent froze with his coffee halfway to his mouth. Zoe went completely pale and mouthed "what" at me from across the table. The department heads looked curious. They had never seen me before. But the people who were at that recognition night table knew exactly who I was now. I kept it professional. I gave my standard acquisition talk. I laid out the restructuring plan, the timeline for changes, and my vision for growth. I said I was committed to building a culture where people are valued for their skills and character, not judged by superficial measures or job titles. I could feel Zoe's eyes on me the entire time. When I finished, I opened it up for questions. Brent's hand went up. "Yes, Brent," I said. I am sorry," he said. "When did this deal start?" "About 4 months ago," I answered. "It closed Friday at midnight." I watched him do the math and realize he had been mocking the man who would soon sign his paycheck. "Any other questions?" I asked. Silence. "Great. Department heads, I will be scheduling one-on-ones this week. HR will send out the calendar. Meeting adjourned." I walked out. Zoe caught up with me in the hallway 30 seconds later. "Landon, what was that?" she said. "What the hell?" "Cannot talk right now," I said. "I have a meeting with the CFO." "You bought my company," she said. "I bought a company," I said. "I did not know it was yours until we had been dating a while." "And you did not think to mention this?" she asked. I stopped walking and looked at her. "When should I have mentioned it?" I asked. "When you were telling your friends I was between jobs. Or Friday night when everyone was laughing about how I should apply for entry-level roles." She looked down. "That was just they were joking. Brent jokes with everyone." "Right, jokes," I said. "I have meetings all week. We can talk later." "Do not do this," she said. "Do not let Friday night ruin what we have." "This is not about one night," I said. "It is about the fact that you sat there and let it happen. You told me to be humble and take the joke." I left her standing in the hallway. Over the next 3 days, I lived in meetings. The CFO walked me through the books. They were even worse than the early audit showed. There were irregularities in sales reports, and every trail led back to Brent's team. I looked at the performance data. Zoe's department, marketing, was performing well below benchmark. The due diligence reports had already flagged them for restructuring before I even made the offer. Wednesday evening, Zoe texted and asked if we could talk. I told her I was busy with the transition. That was the truth. She asked if we were still together. I told her I needed time to think. Thursday morning, I asked HR to pull Zoe's file. That is standard when I review department heads and senior staff during an acquisition. What I found surprised me. She had applied to Pierce Holdings, my company, 18 months earlier for a senior marketing position. Her resume made it to the final rounds, but HR had flagged her as not a cultural fit after reference checks. There were notes about concerns with integrity and accountability. I had never seen that application. HR screens those. but someone at my own company had already seen parts of her character and decided not to bring her on board. Patterns like this rarely start with you. They just finally touch you. Friday, I held one-on-ones with the marketing team. Zoe was my last meeting of the day. She walked in nervous and tried to make small talk. I kept it professional. I asked about her projects, her team, and her view on why the department was underperforming. Then I asked about Friday night. "What do you want me to say?" she asked. "I am sorry. I already apologized." "I do not need an apology," I said. "I need to understand something. You knew the comments bothered me. You could see it. But you told me to take the joke and be humble." "Why?" She shifted in her chair. "It is just how it works here," she said. "That is the culture. Brent has been here 8 years. He has clout. You cannot push back on guys like him without making things harder for yourself." "So you chose the easier path," I said. "I chose to keep the peace," she replied. I nodded. "Here is my problem, Zoe. I can work with someone who makes mistakes. I can work with someone who is still learning. I cannot work with someone who knows the right thing and still does nothing because it is uncomfortable." "This is about us," she said. "You are punishing me." "This is about culture," I said. "About the kind of environment I am building here. Right now, you are part of the problem I am trying to fix." I told her she would be placed on a performance improvement plan. 90 days to show leadership, accountability, and alignment with the culture we want to build. Her direct manager would have the details by Monday. She left without another word. That evening I fired Brent, not because of the dinner, because the audit showed 23 separate cases of falsified sales reports, inflated numbers, and misrepresented contracts. Security walked him out at 5:45. Zoe texted me that night, saying I was being unfair. She said I was letting personal feelings affect business decisions. She said she expected better from someone who claimed to be professional. I did not respond. It is interesting how people cry personal when they do not like the standard, even when the standard was set long before they arrived. Over the next week, the company started to shift. Junior staff began to relax. I learned that Brent had been bullying people for years, taking credit for junior reps' work and blaming them when his fake numbers caught up with him. One of the junior sales reps, Jamie, came to my office. "I just wanted to say thank you," he said. "I was planning to quit. Brent made my life hell. Now I want to stay if you will have me." I promoted him to interim sales lead. Maybe it was fast, but he had something Brent never did: honesty. When you remove one bully, you often discover 3 quiet people who were ready to step up the whole time. At the same time, I kept digging into the culture. HR showed me the exit interviews we pulled during due diligence. They mentioned toxic leadership and a boys' club mentality. Most of it pointed to sales, but marketing came up too. There were comments about people not speaking up when they saw problems, about managers laughing along while others got belittled. One exit file from 7 months earlier described a marketing manager who watched a sales lead humiliate a coworker at a company event and laughed instead of stepping in. No name was listed, but the timing lined up with Zoe's department. Then we pulled specific HR records. Zoe had been in the room during 3 separate incidents where HR violations took place. She had been listed as a witness. In each case, she chose not to corroborate the complaint. A harassment claim had stalled because no one would back up the victim, even though 5 people, including Zoe, were there. Her performance reviews showed times where she had marked people down for culture fit without giving clear reasons. Taken one by one, they all seemed small. Together, they looked like a pattern. She was not the main villain. She was the person who watched and stayed quiet because it was safer. Tuesday afternoon, Zoe requested another meeting. She came into my office and said, "This is not about work, this is about us." "There is no us," I said. "Not anymore." "Because of one stupid night," she said. "Because I did not defend you to Brent. Because you showed me who you are when things get uncomfortable, and I believed you," I said. "You are not being fair," she said, sitting down. "You are taking one moment and using it to define my entire character." "It is not one moment," I said, turning my screen. You had 3 chances to support a harassment complaint. You chose silence. You marked people down for vague reasons. You have been here 4 years and have never once reported misconduct, even though you have been present when it happened. That is how corporate environments work, she said. You pick your battles. No, I said. That is how toxic environments survive, because people like you help them stay comfortable. Her face hardened. Fine, she said. Fire me. Get it over with. This whole PIP thing is just you dragging it out anyway. I am not firing you, I said. You are going to complete your 90 days and show me you can actually lead. Or you are going to fail on your own. Either way, it will be your choice. She stood up. I thought you were different, she said. You are just like every other guy with a little power. It goes straight to your head. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I am done accepting the bare minimum from people who know better. She slammed the door and walked out. Later that week, I called my executive coach. I told him everything. The acquisition, the dinner, Zoe, the PIP. If you had never dated her and Friday night never happened, what would you do with this employee? He asked. I would put her on a PIP, I said. Give her support and clear standards. If she still did not meet them, I would let her go. Then that is what you do, he said. So that is what I did. Personally, I called her and ended the relationship. She said she could not be with someone who holds grudges this hard. I did not argue. Professionally, the plan stayed in place. 90 days later, Zoe's PIP ended. She did not pass. Her manager documented missed deadlines, avoided hard conversations, and attempts to work around the expectations instead of meeting them. The pattern did not change. HR gave her 2 weeks' notice. She started telling people that I fired her out of spite, that the PIP had been a sham, that this was all revenge. Her friends from the old culture believed it. There is a whole story in the office now about the scorned ex-boyfriend CEO abusing his power. I let that narrative run where it will. People who want the facts know them. People who do not will not be convinced anyway. Then something unexpected happened. Friday afternoon around 4, there was a knock on my door. It was Jamie, the junior rep I had promoted. Do you have a minute? He asked. Sure, I said. He came in, closed the door, and handed me an envelope. I have been going back and forth about this, he said, but after hearing about Zoe leaving, I think you should see it. Inside was a printed photo. It was from that recognition night. Someone had taken it on their phone and printed it. You could see our whole table. Brent in the center, mid-laugh, arm stretched out, pointing at me. Zoe next to him, wine glass raised, smiling. Me on the other side, hands folded, face neutral. The whole dynamic was frozen in one frame. The mockery. The participation. The silence. Where did you get this? I asked. One of the catering staff, Jamie said. Guy named David. He has worked a bunch of our events. He said he saw what was happening at your table and it bothered him. He took the picture because he has seen Brent do this before. He thought someone should have documentation. Documentation of what? I asked. Hostile work environment, Jamie said. That is what David called it. He said Brent always picked someone to target and got the table to pile on. He paused. David heard you were the new owner. He wanted you to have this. He said most people in your position would have crushed Brent and probably Zoe. He thought you handled it with more class than he expected. I looked back down at the photo, at Zoe's face, at the easy smile while someone else was being used as the punchline. Sometimes the universe hands you a screenshot of exactly why your gut never fully trusted someone. Jamie shifted his weight. I know people are saying things about you, he said, but I was at that table. I did not speak up. I was scared. I watched the whole thing. The way you have handled this with the PIP and everything, it is not revenge. You gave her a chance. She just did not take it. After he left, I sent the picture to my attorney and asked if it would have helped with Brent's wrongful termination claim. Legally, we did not need it, he said. The fake sales reports were enough, but if you are asking if it backs up your judgment, yes, it does. I had HR add the photo to Brent's file in case he tries anything else down the line. The company is doing better now. Revenue is up. Our sales pipeline is real, not padded. We have hired new people who actually want to be here. The juniors who were getting beaten down are stepping up. We are restructuring the way we pay sales to reward actual performance, not made-up numbers. The culture still needs work, but it is moving in the right direction. As for me, I am okay. I went on a date recently with a woman I met at a business conference. She owns a small consulting firm. We got coffee, talked for 3 hours, and actually enjoyed the conversation. When she asked what I do, I told her the truth from the start. I buy companies and fix them, I said. She nodded and said, "That sounds complicated." Then we talked about other things. Someone asked me what I really gained from all of this. On the surface, it looks like a lot of drama with an X and a messy acquisition. But for me, the real gain was clarity. Clarity about what I will accept in a partner. Clarity about what kind of leader I want to be. Clarity about how I use power when I have it. David, the caterer, told Jamie that people with power do not usually choose decency when they can choose payback. Maybe that is true. But I am glad I tried to choose decency first, even if someone else chose not to step up with me. Because at the end of the day, the only part you really own is how you treat people when you could get away with doing less. Zoe will leave in 2 weeks. I will be professional and fair. Her severance will be what it should be. Her reference will be honest but not cruel. Then she will move on, and I will keep building something better here. Lesson 1. When someone laughs along while you are being humiliated, they are telling you exactly where you rank on their priority list. Lesson 2. Silence in the face of bad behavior is not neutral. It quietly supports the person doing the harm. Lesson 3. You do not need to use your power to destroy someone to hold them accountable. Clear standards and real chances are enough to show who they are. Lesson 4. Patterns in people's behavior usually show up long before you enter the story. Do not ignore the evidence just because you wish it said something else. Lesson 5. In relationships and in business, you deserve people who choose what is right over what is easy, even when it costs them socially. Lesson 6. Walking away from someone who protects their comfort instead of your dignity is not holding a grudge. It is setting a standard. What about you? If you were in Landon's place, at what point would you have ended the relationship, if at all? Have you ever stayed quiet in a toxic situation and later wished you had spoken up? Share your thoughts in the comments.